Welcome back to the Upstate Real Producers Beyond the Pages podcast. We're here to explore stories of change makers shaping our communities. Today, we're joined by a man who's not just helping people buy homes, he's helping them believe that they can. Terrence Wilson is the owner and broker in charge of Wilson House Realty based in Greenville, South Carolina. A military veteran, educator, entrepreneur. Terrence has dedicated over a decade of guiding first-time home buyers from renting to home ownership, empowering clients through coaching, care, and clear education. If you ever thought real estate was out of reach, this is the conversation for you. Terrence Wilson, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, so excited to be here, man.
Well, Terrence, let's just jump right in. So you've worn a lot of hats: Air Force veteran, educator, now broker. What path brought you to real estate?
Failure, just failing forward. So I did 6 years in the United States Air Force. As we were talking before the podcast, we had 3 kids in 4.5 years, just wanting to raise kids around family. Family is just so important to us. And plus, we needed some free childcare as well, right? And so I decided to get out of the Air Force and just really trying to figure out how to navigate in civilian life, because we were in an incubator, with the military. We've had, systems and support around us. But coming out, I got out during the recession, literally I got out January 2007, and then the next thing you know, we're in the recession, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just a crazy time that had me kind of fumbling through careers, trying to figure out what that looks like for me. So real estate came about just from a place of failure. And I was really in a super depressed state, really felt like I was failing my family in a big way, really couldn't provide the way that I wanted to, had the education, had the experience, had personality, had purpose, but I just couldn't pull it all together. And I went out west to get some help, met a life coach that really helped me fall in love with myself.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't know me. I had no idea I struggled with identity. But once I found out who I was able to start doing the right things, and I started having the things that I want. So it started with identity, but I wouldn't have known that I had identity problem if I didn't fail.
Nice. Well, Terrence, I know one of your missions has been to help first-time home buyers. Why? I know you can help anyone, people in their third house, second house, fifth house. Why are you particularly focused on that particular group?
That's a great question. So here's the deal. Once again, it goes back to me, right? So my wife and I, we had an international relationship. And so I asked the question, man, how are you guys, listen, we're barely affording this Nissan Altima, this 97 Nissan Altima, right? And so how in the world are you driving this Infiniti? And so he said, man, we're using the equity in our house. So we went through this process of saying, hey, look, put me on. So we connected with his guy who's a mortgage broker. I didn't know the difference between a lender, a banker. And so, hey, I was approved. And he said, hey, meet me at this address. And so I go out there, right? And it's one of those new construction neighborhoods that's got the big little thing they be doing like that, the little air thing. Yeah. And so we went in the first house too small. Went in the third house, it was too big. We chose the one in the middle. And I went through this process of purchasing a home. So I called back home, and my parents and our support system, and they was like, you're too young to be doing this.
Whoa.
And no one could walk me through this process. No one in my family could walk me through the process because they've never been through this process. And so went through the process, and long story short, the day before closing, we're packing up, and I've already paid my last little money order to the apartment complex in the leasing office, and came back, and we're moving. My wife had a box in her hand, and I got a phone call, and the only word she heard, what do you mean we're not closing tomorrow? So in the first year of my marriage, I got my family homeless. And it's not because of what I knew, but it's because of what I didn't know. If I had a real estate agent walking me through this process, I would have never gone through that process. And that was a ceiling over my head. It would create a ceiling over our head, over our marriage. It took us 14 years to buy our first home because of what we didn't know.
Wow.
And so from there, we tried to hire real estate agents to help us, but no one could help us and walk us through the process of fixing our credit or teaching us about debt to income ratios. No one really slowed down to help us because we couldn't help them make a buck quickly. And so that's why I'm passionate about helping people that nobody wants to help.
Well, that's really powerful. I mean, that's inspirational for one, because you put yourself through it. And Terrence, I know Wilson House Realty is not just a name for you.
Yeah.
It's a vision.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more what that stands for?
Yeah, so Wilson House really just stems from like these two words, family and legacy. And so my grandfather, we was watching my grandfather and grandmother, how like they always invited people into their homes. Like my grandfather worked in a mill, you know, his dad was a cotton picker, and just seeing how they owned all of this land, and they had enough land to not only give to all of their children, but they left me their house. I inherited real estate. And within this same house that I inherited, watching my grandparents grow up, they always invited people in. They always fed people, but like it was family. It was like inviting people in, having a sense of community. We had so many memories there, but I think the biggest thing is legacy, right? They had something to not only leave their children, but their children's children. But when I look at people that look like me, we're not leaving our children anything but debt, but struggle, chaos. And so for me, I really wanted to help other families to receive what I've received.
Wow, that, you know, one thing I have learned, real estate is definitely powerful. You don't have nothing else, you can kind of course correct for you.
Sure.
Right? So, you know, I talk to a lot of realtors, and I think one of their things that they want to do automatically, because they don't know the process yet, they want to become a broker. And every time I've kind of brought that up, the process is a lot harder than they think it is. But, you know, Terrence, what's that process like? What's some of those biggest challenges that you had to encounter going from agent to broker?
I went from making money to losing money. Listen, I was at a great brokerage. I made a lot of friendships there. I was on the leadership council there. And it was one of those things where it just made sense for me to do it, because I had built such a strong brand. That makes sense. And I didn't need to hide out in someone else's brand. However, when I went to broker and I started bringing other people on, those people became a distraction to me. And the thing that I would say, if someone wants to become a broker, is that you really, 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 really need to be clear on your goals. And really, I would suggest like take any other path other than that, because it's cost to being the boss, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to step out of production. And when you step out of production and to help other people build their thing, you really need to be solid, you need to be stable, and you really need to be clear about, hey, listen, this is who I'm called to be, this is who I'm built to be, I'm wired to be this way. And so if you're doing it for financial reasons, I would say don't do it, because the expenses within itself, either the expenses are going to give you or the distractions are going to get you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and Terrence, I've always appreciated this about you since I've known you, and I think it makes a lot of sense for you to be a broker, because you have so much to offer. You have so much wisdom.
I appreciate you saying that.
In that. So makes a lot of sense, and we're very grateful that you're in that role so you can spread your knowledge. So what's some of the things that first-time home buyers, the misunderstanding of the whole process?
Well, keyword, preparation. They've been living their life a certain way, right? They've been renting, they've been, doing their finances a certain way. Buying a home isn't like buying anything else, right? Like you can't use Klarna to buy a house, right? You can't use a firm. You can't, there are things that you can't do. You can go buy a car and barely have a job, right? But when it comes to buying a house, there's a certain level of preparation that you got to have. And there's a lot of people that's not educating a first-time home buyer on how to set your finances up.
Yeah.
What's important, because buying a house affects every aspect of your life. It doesn't affect just your financial life, but it affects every aspect. And I believe it's preparation. And so that's why we built our company on education, coaching, and care. So when you start thinking about buying a house, hey, we want to step into those thoughts. We want to help you to understand how to set up your finances, what lenders are going to be looking for. So I'm like a lender's best friend. So a lot of realtors think just really focus on market data, what's going on in the city, all of those things, right? Marketing, how to get more clients. But for me, when clients get to me, I want to be a resource of preparation. Because you don't get what you hope for, you get what you prepared for.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing is I can help people's dreams come true if you let me start at the starting line. So I just don't want people to make a lot of mistakes and think they're further on than what they are, because that's where disappointment happens.
I'm gonna have to write that one down. You don't get what you hope for, you get what you prepare for.
Yeah, every time.
Big. That's in every industry, right?
Every industry, everything. So listen, I can hope that my kids go to college one day. The question is that I prepared them for that. And so even in parenting, right, we have all these hopes and aspirations. But my thing is, does the preparation line up to get that victory?
And I know you have worked with hundreds of first-time home buyers, and obviously not getting specific with names, but can you share a story a little bit of how you've kind of helped a first-time home buyer take that leap of faith to owning their first home?
Yeah, I mean, man, how much time do we have? So just this week, lady 62 years old comes into my office, right? And she's like nervous, she's shaking, she's just like, I've owned a home before, but my husband did everything.
Wow.
And but we got a divorce. And here it is, I'm living in this apartment. I make plenty of money. I've been on my job for a while, but you know what? I don't have anything to leave my son. And so she's ready to go through this process with all of her wisdom, all of her experience. She can teach me so many things, but just like walking her through this process and showing her that she's already prepared, she has it, streamlining this difficult process. That's just one story. There's another story of my 20-year-old daughter who purchased her first home, right? And so this isn't something, we go back to the preparation. It's just a standard. I'm not gonna let my daughter throw away money, right? With renting. There's another story of a homeless family. This is a very powerful story. Homeless family who finally got Section 8, couldn't show any proof of income. We walked them through this process for about 2 years. They helped them get stable. We coached them in life, and they finally got a home, right?
Yeah.
And so they got the home, they're in the home, they got a brand new home. Kids are crying, everybody's excited. Kids finally get their own room, don't have to sleep in the same room as their parents. Parents finally get their marriage back. They were in the home probably 3.5, 4 years. The husband passes away. And here it is, this wife shuts down, needs time to grieve, to process raising kids. That was the income.
Yeah.
And so they were able to call us back. And because they invested in that asset, we're able to sell that asset, help them to recover. They made over 6 figures for them to be able to start a life without their breadwinner.
Wow.
That's the type of stuff that I'm a part of.
That's just life-changing, man. I know that gotta make you feel so good to know that you played a role in that whole process of just something that was so detrimental turned into flip the whole script on.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, Robert, like, I allow my clients to be the hero of their story. I want those fathers, I want those single mothers, I want those grandparents who's having to take on these children because of whatever happened with their children,
Yeah.
They're having to be, second-term parents. I want them to be the heroes. So if you go on our social media, it's not about what Wilson House does, it's not about what Terrence does. I just want these hardworking people to be able to actualize that, hey, listen, my life means something, and I'm able to provide legacy and stability to my family, and so that they have something to be proud of, because they're the ones that go to work. They're the ones that's working on the credit. They're the ones that's paying their bills on time. They're the ones who's having to have courage to do something that they never saw their parents do.
Man, that's amazing. And Terrence, you grew up in the Upstate area, and I'm pretty sure you've seen over the years just how the Upstate has changed. And I mean, it's like one of the top cities in America for people to come to, which I know that's probably like 20, 30 years ago, that's probably like you never could think of that. But now, what's the state of like the Upstate in the sense of how the market is, or Greenville, if you will? And is it a good time to buy? I think that's always a question.
It's definitely a good time to buy if you're renting, right? It may not be the best time to buy if you already own a home, you have a great rate, you're in a great neighborhood. It just depends on, where your kids are. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of my clients call me and say, hey, listen, is it a good time to buy? And based on their situation, based on their motivation, man, I'm actually turning down business and telling them, hey, just stay, just chill, you're good, but it's definitely a great time to buy if you're renting. because rent is continuing to go up, a lot of people are worried about the rate, but man, there are so many incentives out there right now, especially on the new construction side. I literally just got off of a mastermind or a coaching mastermind because there's this competition, right? To a new construction neighborhood that's a mile up the street, right? That's offering $4.99 to $15,000 flex cash. Why would somebody want to buy a 15-year-old home when they could buy a brand new home, right? And so I believe that that's where we are in the market right now. And so what I would suggest to a first-time home buyer, hey, listen, you got to get on base. You may not be able to get everything that you want, but I can guarantee you that this house, if you get into the right asset, that house is going to work harder for you than you will for it.
And just like you mentioned, like you talked to a lot of people who were on that fence of home ownership. What's some of those things you wish they knew about home ownership?
It's number one, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, right? Because like, here it is, man. Everybody has fear. Everybody has some type of fear, right? And that fear is coming from some type of story that they're telling themselves. Either somebody told them the story and they believe the story, or they're making up stories that's never happened. And so that's where a lot of anxiety comes from. Anxiety comes from an outcome that hasn't even presented itself yet. It's just one that you made up in your mind. So it's very important that you talk to a realtor, talk to an agent, instead of assuming that something is one way. Hey, just have the conversation. Have the conversation. And so I would say that one of the biggest things for somebody on the fence is that they are listening to like a collective psychology of people around the water cooler. They got family members that purchased a house during 2020 or during COVID, and they got a 3% rate. And so now they're telling everybody there's no way in the world I'm going to buy a house at 6 to 7%. But listen, you're in an apartment. You don't even have a dedicated parking spot. You don't even use this fancy clubhouse. And the reality of it is you're paying for it. So all the money that's going out of your pocket, it is not invested into an asset, and you're throwing money away. And I'm so glad that you can call the maintenance crew to come and fix your toilet. But guess what? We got solutions for that. And I just want people to know that you will never, ever, 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 ever get rich by renting.
And Terrence, like I kind of stated before, I've always saw you as a leader, and now that you own your real estate company, how has that kind of like have changed how you lead people?
It's changed everything. It has changed everything. I'm one of those kind of people, because I want to help people. If an agent came to my office and said, hey, I want to do this, I want to make 6 figures, I want to be able to own my schedule. Listen, I wouldn't even vet that person.
Yeah.
I would literally do anything that I can, step away from what I'm doing to help that person become what they say they want to be. Right? And I think the difference is that now I don't go by what people say. I go up by what people show me. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And so now as a leader, I'm looking for track records of success. You know what I mean? And so do you show up on time? If you can't show up to a meeting on time, there's no way that you're going to show up to a consult on time, you know? And I'm also looking at, can you make relationships? Can you build relationships? Do you have relational intelligence? Do you have emotional intelligence? You know, like, I'm just a better leader because I just don't go by what people say, but I go by what they show me. And I have healthier boundaries now. And so I believe that most agents start hating what they do because of the people that they're doing it with. It's not what they do, but it's who they're doing it with. But it's those agents who don't show up to training, right? And so you answer all of their questions in training, but they don't show up to training, so they don't have the answers to the questions because they didn't know that the question was coming. The reason that you would train somebody is so that they wouldn't have questions, right? And so it's just one of those things where because they want to do what they want to do and they don't come to trainings, they don't really want to invest in their craft. It's just one of those things where like we really can't walk together. So it's just small things like that that's changed my leadership. Because the reality of it is what I saw myself doing as a young broker is that I was out front, but when I looked around, nobody was there. That's not the definition of leadership. That means that I'm just out front by myself. But a leader has influence, and that influence causes people to follow. And so for me, I want to make sure that if I'm going to be a leader, then this person has the capacity and the competency and the character to follow.
I love
so I guess the biggest thing is how it shifted my leadership is that I've upped my standards. Because I've upped my standards, it actually rules out more people, and it causes the need to attract the right people who's going to actually follow.
Absolutely. And you stated something earlier, and I love that you mentioned legacy. And it's something that me and my wife actually talk about. Actually, our slogan for our family is legendary.
Oh, wow.
So that's our slogan. It's just one word, legendary.
Yeah.
So obviously I know that one of the biggest things you want to do is leave a legacy. You know, when you think about your legacy and how you're going to not just do that in real estate, how do you even see that when it comes to your legacy in the community?
It's real simple. First of all, I'm not in the sales business. I'm not in the real estate business. I'm in the people business. I believe when God wants to bless your life, he's going to send you a relationship. I believe when the devil wants to curse your life, he's going to send you a relationship. And I believe that life change happens in the context of relationships. In my company, I just want to help people become better people. And the reality of it is when they come into my office, I'm not trying to figure out what to sell them. I'm trying to figure out, can I help them? Can I give them a piece of information? Like it's crazy that when people come into my office, you just never know what that consultation is gonna be.
Yeah.
Because my goal is to help people become better people. And so when it comes to my legacy, I just want people to actualize their fullest potential in the earth. I want to be able to meet a person, show them their best self, or I want to understand their dream. I want to go out there to that dream, and I want to call them to that dream. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So like, for example, we talk about their family, we talk about their occupation, we talk about their recreation, right? The Ford method, right? How's your family? How's work? What are you doing for fun? But I love the D. The D is your dream. So I ask this question every time. If you had all the money you ever wanted and all the time you ever needed, what does your dream life look like? And people, like, I promise you, people can't answer that question. Ask me why, Robert.
Why?
Because everybody is going around talking about what they don't want. Everybody's going around talking about what they don't want to happen. I just don't want a house like this. I just don't want my marriage to be this way. I just don't want my kids to turn out that way. But no one is ever asking the question, or can answer the question, am I clear about what I really want? And so I give people permission to dream. Because once you tell me your dream, I'm gonna go there. In every conversation, I'm calling you to that place. Because that's the place where you're gonna be fulfilled. And most people think that a house is gonna make them happy, a car is gonna make them happy, a marriage is gonna make them happy, kids is gonna make them happy, right? No, it's purpose. What I really wanna do is join people in their life to help them fulfill their potential on the earth. And the only way that they can live their fullest potential is for them to step in purpose, the thing they've been actually created to do. And I just give people permission to be their authentic self. You don't have to be anything other than yourself. For example, I had a client to come in the office yesterday, and older couple, older than me, and I can tell that they've been poverty stricken. I can tell that they've had a very hard life.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of courage. I can tell they put their best clothes on, that they wanted to impress me, and just really wasn't sharp people at all. And so there was like no judgment. And it was just quite sad that the only thing they can talk to me about were their problems. They talked about how the floor is falling in, talking about how even though they're elderly, they're taking care of 75-year-old aunt, talking about how they had to take in 3 of their grandchildren and how people are sleeping in the living room. And these people, they deserve to be in an environment where they can dream beyond their struggle. And in my legacy, I want to help people move from surviving to thriving. And thriving is doing the very best I can with the resources that I have within the season that I'm in. And if I can help people make that transition, that's why I get out of bed.
Well, if I had to say anything, you definitely fill in that void of why we want to do this podcast. Is so much we can put on paper, and just fill that void of going beyond the pages. So Terrence, your commitment to your service and education is seriously inspiring. Before we go, how can people connect with you?
Facebook is that kind of medium, and so we realize is that like website and all that stuff doesn't work. Like if we're gonna get into a relationship, you can start following us on Facebook, the Wilson House Realty group. So it's facebook.com/Wilson House Realty. And that way you can kind of see all the people that we're helping and all the wisdom and tools that we're putting out there. And the other way is just call us. Like we're regular people. Like call us or text 864-477-9928. And so now here it is. Like I'm going to tell you my whole little real estate little situation, right? I'm about to help. I'm about to help you. So look, man, people meet me and they like me, right? But when they meet my wife, Crystal, they love her. So I understand. So I have to have high self-esteem because people meet me in the school. Oh my God, we're gonna get a house. And did this soon. And I turn them over to the next step, which is meeting Crystal. It's over. I hardly ever see it.
That's your sales pitch. She's your sales pitch.
She's not. No, bro. Crystal makes everything sticky because Crystal validates everything that I am, and she's such an even keel, solid, integral person. So the reality of it is that she inherited the name Wilson, but the reality of it is that she totally validates Wilson House and everything who we are. So,
well, I appreciate you sharing that. I won't go too much down a rabbit hole because we had a conversation before we came on, just talking about what our significant others and how that can actually elevate us as bro. That's another talk for another day. Y'all go down a rabbit hole on that. But Terrence, thanks for joining us for Upstate Real Producers Beyond the Pages podcast and for doing the work from turning keys into confidence. So that wraps up another episode of Upstate Real Producers Beyond the Pages. We have Terrence Wilson with Wilson House Realty. Don't forget to go like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with the next guest we'll have on the show.